everyone. I wanted to record this update early, partly because I have a lot of upcoming work commitments this week, but also just to announce a couple of items to you. And the first one, some of you may remember some years ago, there was a lady, American lady called Pamela Gregory. And she wrote to me because a lot of my followers were writing to her thinking that she was me. I always call myself Pam Gregory. She calls herself Pamela Gregory. She's the founder of Eyes of Love Revolution, and her Substack is Eyes of Love Scrolls. She does beautiful work, and she recently emailed me again after some years to say how much our work is overlapping, talking about love. But people in thinking that she is me or sending her, well, not only sending her a lot of emails, and she very kindly and graciously is taking a lot of time out to reply to them saying that she is not me, but they are also sending her donations. And although that's very nice, again, they're assuming it's for my work. I don't have a donation button on my website. I'm perfectly happy to give out as much of my work as I can for free, as I think you know. And so, but this lady in America, Pamela Gregory, has actually, again, very kindly taken her donation button off her website for the meantime, because she doesn't want to mislead people in thinking they're giving me donations when actually they're giving them to her. So I hope that's clear. So she is Pamela Gregory. She's founder of Eyes of Love Revolution, and her Substack is Eyes of Love Scrolls. She is not me. She is not an astrologer, although she does beautiful work. So that's the that's the first announcement. And I have nowhere to which you can give donations. If you feel you appreciate my work, please give it to your favourite charity. But I'm really, really happy to give as much of my work as I can for free. The second thing is, many of you are aware that for the last couple of years, I've been, I just suggested a couple of years ago the idea that we could all get together. How can we as a community use our numbers in a more positive way? And that's when I just had the idea of a free 15-minute meditation every evening, 7 p.m. UK time. You have to adjust that to your own time zone. And gave some guidelines for that. And I'll put the video below where I was describing the idea and giving the guidelines of the intentions we set and the mantra we use. We're welcoming in a never-expanding consciousness of love, etc. And people have been doing that really beautifully since that time. I think many thousands of you all over the world are coming together, because when we come together in numbers, we can really change things in the world. And that's been measured by many of the wonderful big thinkers out there. Lynn McTaggart is the absolute queen of this kind of thing. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, they are all doing wonderful things with meditation. And there are many, many people across the world organizing big meditations. But anyway, thousands of you have been doing this, very diligently and loyally over the last couple of years. And of course, you can't always make every evening, 7 p.m. UK time, adjusted for your own time zone, but as many of them as you can, because we can do a lot of good in the world when you can't think of anything else practical to do to help people in extreme circumstances of war or earthquakes or poverty or whatever. We can all do this. And people have been reporting about beautiful experiences they have with a lot of telepathy involved. But recently, I just thought it'd be quite nice for people who wanted a guided meditation that I would offer one of those. And so what I've done is develop the wording for a 15 to 16-minute meditation on my website under the meditation link. I'll put the link for that below. You will find the words only, and then those words in 2 alternative music tracks as well. So take your pick. If they work for you, they're all free, of course. If they work for you, wonderful. And if you just want to keep on doing what you're doing, then please keep on doing that. On that meditation link, you'll also find that video explaining the original idea. You'll also find my explanation of the very, very simple and wonderful yogic baby belly breath. And again, that explanation, they're all in audio, actually, MP3s. And that explanation with some wave sounds, some sea sounds as background, which is, I think, even more relaxing. Anyway, I'll put the link for all of that below, and hope you enjoy the offerings. So let me now add a couple of things to what I was saying about the full supermoon, which is coming up on the 6th or 7th of the month, and also then go on to talk about the rest of October. These are big months. These final months of 2025 are incredibly big energetically, and it's very hard to overstate that. And way back last December, with my good friend and colleague Kathy Rose, we did a kind of looking forwards to 2025 with the theme of endings and beginnings. And boy, I think that's played out so thoroughly, but we've still got the 3 big months at the end of the year to come. Endings and beginnings. We're going to see a lot of endings in these next 3 months, but equally they are clearing the space for these new beginnings, more of which we will see in 2026. So let me just add a couple of things onto the full supermoon. We have the full supermoon in Aries coming up 6th or 7th, depending on where in the world you live. And remember, with supermoons, the moon is much closer to the Earth in its orbit. The moon will appear bigger and brighter because it is literally closer to the Earth. And this also heightens seismic activity. And we have other things this month which are going to potentially heighten seismic activity. But the fact it's a supermoon is one of those. Plus the fact I think we could have a lot of solar activity as well this month, for reasons I'll come on to. Aries as a sign, as we well know, ruled by Mars, does have the potential on the lower timeline to be more warlike. And just in your personal life, try not to spend time with people that you could kind of have arguments with, because this is very flammable energy. It's very combustible. You can easily get into a row with somebody with this energy, particularly because full moons are when the emotions are heightened, and supermoons are even more so. In Aries, anger, aggression, temper, being impetuous, kind of snapping back. So just be aware of that, stay in peace, and really do kind of try and stay with people who you know are going to reinforce your peacefulness and your calm that weekend. I think the leadership challenges, Aries is one of the key signs for leadership. I think the leadership challenges we're seeing across some of the world, in many countries actually. I know there's great polarization in America. There is great pressure on leadership in the EU, in Germany, in the UK at the moment, and many other places. And that will continue, and I do believe leaders and governments will fall in these remaining 3 months at an accelerated pace. So, yes, expect that. But it's very much about sovereignty. The very positive side of Aries, as I've often talked about, is sovereignty. Now, all through this month, Pluto is going to be semi-square the North Node. Now, the North Node, as you may know, is our collective path of soul's growth for this particular period of 18 and a half months that we're in. And then it changes pairs of signs again. So this is really directing us to a much more spiritual future, which I think is absolutely where we're headed. Pisces, one of the most spiritual signs. And I think of it almost as Christ consciousness, actually. It's very beautiful. With Pluto's semi-square to it, it's like a square, it's a challenge. There is a real question mark around, okay, but where does the power lie? Pluto is the planet of power. And on the one hand, that can be, again, still externally directed power, external authority forces getting in the way of that spiritual collective soul's path of growth, or it can be that you are deciding to step into your power, which will reinforce your sovereignty. Sovereignty isn't a big ego thing. It isn't throwing your weight around. It isn't being angry or aggressive. It can be actually very quiet, very kind, very loving, but just absolutely know where your center lies and where you operate from. So it doesn't have to be loud and shouty at all. External authority is much more likely to be that. Internal isn't. Also remember that the shadow side of Pluto in Aquarius, and I've often mentioned this, that the less positive side is controlled by technology. And, we're seeing that in many, many ways expressed in our world. And those of you who are aware of recent developments, I live in the UK, and there are developments in Europe and in the UK with greater use of digitization, and I'm sure many of you are aware of that as well. And this may come to quite a peak in these 3 months, but possibly particularly in October, because we also, as well as having Pluto semi-square that north node, we also have Pluto moving stationary direct on the 14th of the month. And we will feel that a week to either side. So from the time of this full supermoon to 2 weeks ahead of that, the 21st, which is another important lunation I'm going to be talking about in this video, very much we are assessing issues of power and control in the world. So, major choice point. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of your choices and your focus at this time, more than ever. And I know I've been saying this a lot recently. I said it in the last update. It isn't a regular October or November or December. The choices we're making now are so important in terms of the reality that you're creating right now, but also the future timeline, the future trajectory or path that you're setting for yourself. It's a bigger deal because of all of the things I've talked about, all the convergences and game changers and the new energy coming in that we have right now. And we are co-creating in every moment with this new energy coming in that I'm going to go on to describe a little more in a moment. We are co-creating in every moment. Right now, as I'm making this video, we are in it and we are co-creating with it. So please be more aware than normal of your choices and your focus. Couldn't be more important. And, I hope these videos will, to some extent, give you some guidance on that. Okay, so let us look at the chart for the new moon in Libra, which is happening on the 21st of October. Let me show you that. So this is happening 21st of October, as I say. It's happening on the clock in the UK at 1:25 lunchtime. And here we see Sun and Moon together, as they always are at a new moon, at 28:21 of Libra. So see where 28:21 of Libra is falling in your chart. New moons are always new beginnings, new seeds that you're planting. So see which house area 28:21 of Libra falls in your chart, because condition your intention. It's a perfect time to set a new intention for what you want to create in your life. Don't forget to set a new intention for Mother Gaia as well. Do that every month. But condition your personal intention by the house area. Is this related to your home or your friendships or your career or your health, or where is it falling? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website, go to the link below, get a 2-part video series that takes you from 0 to, you can watch to infinity as often as you like, for as long as you like, to explain where these points fall in your chart and what it means for you. Not a personalized birth chart reading, teaching videos. So, for sure, these last 3 months will be very strong energy and very intense. Now, Libra par excellence is the sign of relationships, and if you've experienced in recent weeks that certain relationships have fallen away, whether they've been friendships or romantic relationships or work relationships, this gives the potential for new people to come in, new relationships that are being born at this time that may have a different resonance, a different quality for you. It's also the sign, one of the two signs most related to the law. Remember, Sagittarius, because it's to do with truth, and Libra to do with the scales of justice, are the two signs related to the law. So we could see something legal that's very important coming up at this time. It's also the sign of balance and harmony. And I think this is a very important theme at this new moon, to create more, not only more harmony in our world. I mean, heaven knows we need that with all the extreme polarization going on, but more harmony for Gaia, more balance for Gaia. And that's being reinforced by the ruler of this new moon. The ruler of Libra is Venus in its own sign here of Libra, so beautifully comfortable as an expression of love. And Venus is also conjunct a dwarf planet called Makemake. And this is related to the creator god of the Easter Island, related to the Rapa Nui people. And you will know from the history, this isn't just mythology, this is the actual history of Easter Island. It was a very fertile, productive ecosystem naturally. And then it was raided and pillaged by the European sailors and pirates, and they brought disease and they chopped down the trees and ravaged Easter Island. And eventually it was down to a tiny number of residents, but they were able, partly via the rapamycin, a naturally occurring chemical in the soil, but also because of their natural understanding of the cycles of nature itself, able to regenerate back to the healthy ecosystem that it had been before, to get the island, Easter Island, back into balance. So it's very connected to the deep connection to the natural world. I mean, how many of us are just yearning to get Gaia back into health and balance and wellness? Very related in its symbolism to new beginnings, that symbol of regeneration. And it also, again, I'm referring to the work of Alan Clay here, who runs Dwarf Planet University. He talks about it as a new aspect of consciousness emerging that we are uncovering. Not that we are discovering necessarily, that we are uncovering, that it's always been there. But this is the time we're able to kind of shed the veil and uncover what was always there for us as another expression of consciousness, and I would suggest another expression of our multidimensionality. So beautiful, beautiful symbolism there. And also, of course, the new moon, sun and moon are conjunct Haumea. Another very powerful symbol for New Earth at 2 of Scorpio. This is an out of sign conjunction, but it's still pretty tight at 4 degrees. And you will know the myth of Haumea well, very much to do with regeneration, birthing babies from all over her body. She also, remember, because she had an instinctive understanding of the earth and understood shamanic principles, she was able to restore the land to previous fertility. She used her magic stick, the Makalai, to restore land that had been laid waste through poor agricultural practices, produce food from that impoverished land in a magical way. So she's also a very strong symbol for New Earth and this sense of regeneration. So, however, there's a big theme around power in this new moon in Libra, because the sun and moon are in an out of sign square to Pluto. You could see it more easily if Pluto was still the last couple of degrees of Capricorn, then it would be an in sign square, but nevertheless, it's still a tight square, 3 degrees of orb. And this brings up, again, issues around power. So is this going to express as external power, external authority, or express as the positive meaning of Pluto in Aquarius, which is shifting power to the people? And remember that we are right in the midst of Pluto being out of bounds to the south until November 23rd, a very strong period of rebellious and revolutionary energy, which we're seeing all over the world now. Even nations who've been typically reserved or sleepy are waking up in a very significant way. So it is also here, we actually, in fact, have a cardinal grand cross here, because we have the new moon square to Jupiter, which is going to enlarge, because Jupiter's the planet of expansion, going to enlarge any issues that are legal or around, lack of balance, lack of harmony, lack of equality, and excessive power. And that sense of lack of equality is picked up because the other side of this cardinal grand cross are Chiron and Eris in Aries here. Now, I call it cardinal because even though one corner of it is Pluto, which is in a fixed sign, the other 3 corners are in cardinal signs. Libra, Cancer, Aries are all cardinal signs, so you call it a cardinal grand cross. So this is very action orientated, to make a change in the world. But we could see this expressing Jupiter, Pluto as excessive power, unbalanced power, Sun, Moon, Libra, square to Jupiter. But the challenge is to step into our sovereignty. That's what all this is about, and to do it with love. So the new moon is also opposing Chiron and Eris, and I've talked about this quite a lot in the past, that Chiron in Aries is very much about a sense of victimhood or being wounded. The 2 key words for Aries are I am, wounded in the I amness, wounded in our sense of self, our individuality, our sense of center, with Eris tightly conjuncted, our voice in the world. Remember, Eris was the only goddess excluded from the wedding. She turned up anyway and created mayhem. So she is the one who stands for truth, justice, honesty, and equality. Every voice needing to be heard, because she had been excluded, because she hadn't been invited to the wedding, because she was on the periphery. She wasn't one of them. She had a sense of exclusion. So both Eris and Chiron indeed have a sense of exclusion. Chiron, in one of its meanings that isn't often talked about, is the one who doesn't fit, the one who's alienated, the one who's the maverick, the outsider. So they both have this sense of people who don't feel they fit into normal society. They're not in the mainstream, they're excluded, they don't have a say, and they don't have a voice. Well, with this new moon in Libra, this could well be the beginning of a change. It could well be the beginning of a change with a greater sense of, if I step into my sovereignty along with many other like-minded beings, this could well shift for the better, and it is. So, and remember that Aries, again, is quite an angry, rebellious energy. Eris is feisty, street fighter. She's not going to take things easily lying down, as it were. We still have the ongoing conjunction, which I've talked about in the last couple of videos, between Nessus and the North Node. This is about blood and gaslighting and poisoning and various kinds. Nessus is a centaur, so you'll have to go back to the previous videos about the myth. and Orcus, a dwarf planet, conjunct the south node, and this is about purification and transmuting darkness into light. So we have some big transformative principles here, and of course Pluto is very much the planet of transformation to this whole picture of what has been unbalanced and unfair, and where people have been made to feel victims, into something much more loving. Ruler here, Venus in Libra, much more loving and inclusive potentially, because Jupiter is about self-care. It's very much a principle of nurturing self, but also nurturing others, and instinctively knowing what others need to feel nurtured in order to be healed. So we have great potential here in this slightly wonky cardinal grand cross for healing the past and moving forwards. So which I think is really lovely. So this is a major choice point, I think, in many ways. I just want to also bring up that on this very day, I've mentioned this before, on this very day, we have a superior conjunction, which involves, in a straight line, the Earth, the Sun, and Three-Eye Atlas, this interstellar object which we don't know if it's a comet or not. If it is a comet, it's quite anomalous in its behavior. It's traveling at this point at 68 kilometers a second. It's at its it's in a superior conjunction on the 21st. It said it's perihelion on the 29th of October, but it's in a straight line, Earth, Sun, Three-Eye Atlas. So no telescopes from Earth will be able to see it at that point, but that is very powerful geometry. And it is a very large object with a very distinctive tail, a plasma tail, we believe. And so that may well, and you will have heard me also and Stephen Burns is a great guy to follow on this. There are also 6 comets coming into our solar system at the same time. And my understanding is that it's extremely rare to have 6 comets at once, plus Three-Eye Atlas that nobody quite knows what it is, all arriving at the same time. And so on this same day, the 21st of October, we have a very large one of those comets called C/2025 R2 Swan, SWAN, at its closest point to the Earth. And both Swan and Atlas are moving very shallowly in line with the ecliptic plane. I know Three-Eye Atlas is moving only within a 5-degree inclination of our ecliptic plane, but Swan is also very close to the ecliptic plane too. So that increases the potential influence of whatever the influence is going to be on our solar system and the Earth by these orbiting bodies. In fact, Three-Eye Atlas doesn't orbit, it's just a one-time flyby. My personal view, which I've expressed before, my personal view is that this is of great benefit to humanity. I believe that all of these bodies are bringing in new high-level information. I believe Three-Eye Atlas is actually potentially activating our heart chakra. I believe that they are very, very beneficial for us. But new information will be coming through all the time. Three-Eye Atlas comes to its closest point to Mars on the 3rd of October, and astrophysicists and cosmologists are hoping they can get a better view at that point of Three-Eye Atlas and get more information. But more and more information will be coming out all the time. But as I say, Three-Eye Atlas will be at its perihelion on the 29th of October. It comes to its closest point to the Earth on the 19th of December, and then who knows where it goes. This is a unique happening because the previous 2 interstellar comets behaved much more as comets. whereas the three-eye atlas is behaving in a very unusual way. So, but I believe it's of great benefit. So, so that straight line Earth-Sun three-eye atlas is happening on the 21st, the day of this new moon, and R2 Swan is at its closest point to the Earth. It is likely, despite whatever benefits they may bring to us, to create electromagnetic volatility because they're moving at speed, they're new to our, or infrequent, let's say, to our solar system, and it is likely that they can create more electromagnetic volatility, more solar activity, more seismic activity. We really don't know, but that's the potential. Okay, back to the chart. Also on this day, the 21st of October, we see here that Neptune is at 0 degrees and 1 minute of Aries. Later in the day, it is going to be literally at 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Aries, because the next day by noon on the 22nd of October, it is already retrograded back into Pisces. So on the 21st of October, it will also be absolutely at pure potentiality of the creator degree. 0, 0, 0, 0 minutes. Pure potentiality of the creator degree. I mean, this just feels so powerful as to what we can create with. Something new and fresh with which we can create. In a really beautiful. And then it retrogrades back into Pisces and it stays at the anaretic degree, the very last degree of Pisces, all the way through until it moves back into Aries, which is going to be on the 27th of January. So it's at that anaretic degree. Now, big things can happen, as we know, in our world when planets are at the anaretic degree, the very last degree of their sign, and it could be related to all the things I've talked about that you can probably reel off yourself. You know, the seas, the oceans, floods, tsunamis, any kind of issue around toxicity, pollution, the illusion, delusion, drugs of all kinds, altered states, the media, all of those things are potentially going to be much bigger in our world. It is also conjunct, when it moves back to 29 degrees of Pisces, a fixed star called Sheet. I don't think I've mentioned before. This is spelt S-H-E-A-T at 29 degrees of Pisces. Now, fixed stars only move 1 degree every 72 years, so that's why they're called fixed, because they don't move very far. It's kind of for a lifetime, pretty much. They stay at the same degree. Now, Sheet doesn't have a terribly kind of jolly mythology because it's related to misfortunes at sea and in the air, and particularly when it's linked to Neptune and or Saturn. Well, here it's linked to both of them because actually Saturn is virtually conjunct. With fixed stars, you've got to use about a 2-degree orb, but certainly Neptune is conjunct. However, Sheet has a very different, very positive expression, which is the drive for freedom of thought. I found that incredibly interesting because we have Uranus here, which is at 0 of Gemini, getting very close to retrograding back into Taurus, which it will do on the 8th of November. And the last day that Uranus was in Taurus in the previous cycle, in 1949, it was, I think, June 1949. I believe that it left Gemini on the 10th of June 1949. That was its last day in the previous cycle in Gemini. The day before that, and I want to credit the brilliant astrologer Frank Clifford with noticing this, the day before, on the 9th of June 1949, the very, very important novel 1984 was published. And linking with the sheet symbolism, that's really fascinating, I think. So, other things to say here. We've actually got a grand trine in water here. We've got Jupiter, 24 of Cancer, trine to Saturn at 26 of Pisces, trine to Mars and Mercury at 20 of Scorpio. So this is a grand trine in water. Now, this can be really beautiful and very inspired, actually. It's very emotional, but the trine between Jupiter and Saturn is actually also part of Jupiter being trine to Neptune here. That's very mystical. Jupiter trine to Neptune, very mystical, want to move to a more perfect reality. We know Saturn Neptune's about making real the dream. And this is really giving us Jupiter a future vision, future dream, Neptune, future vision, future dream of a kind of realistic, pragmatic, long-term building of a future, a society which could have a spiritual context, Pisces, where we all care for each other, Cancer. Beautiful. And this also has tremendous focus. Scorpio, par excellence, the sign of focus, of passion. If you have anything in Scorpio in your chart, this is like a drilling down laser focus. If this isn't used so well, this can be angry words. It's exact to the degree, angry, passionate words. But at another level, more positive level, this can feed in beautifully to, okay, this time it's going to be amazing because we're going to give it such focus, such passion, such energy, to create a much more loving and caring world. This can be really, really beautiful. So, and the other thing just to remind you of as well, again, I'm crediting Alan Clay here, Homer conjunct this new moon is, he says, is linked to unity consciousness. And wouldn't that be beautiful? And all very much connected to love. I think a higher state of love, love is a state of being, not a fluffy pink, romantic Valentine's card, love is a state of being. That's where we're headed in order to get to unity consciousness. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And, I really want to emphasize these last 3 months of the year. They have enormous potential for good. But we are going to see a lot of kind of accelerated crashing down of the old. And that will include some seismic activity, I believe, some extreme weather, that kind of thing, as Gaia goes through her rebirth too. We need to expect that, and through the meditations that we're doing, all of them, not just mine, but lots of people's, we hope to kind of calm that. We've been very lucky that a lot of the earthquakes recently, even though they've been quite large magnitude, have largely happened away from densely populated areas. And have the meditations helped that? We can't say. But they can only do good, I think, is as much as we can say. So it is going to be very strong. Now, the reason Kathy and I called the video we did for 2025 Endings and Beginnings, it was very obvious because so many of all the outer planets, all of them, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and some of the dwarf planets as well, actually, through this year have been moving between the end of the old sign, beginning of the new, end of the old sign, beginning of the new, with their retrograde motion. And considering they all have very different lengths of orbit, Saturn 29.5 years, Uranus 84 years, Neptune 165 years, Pluto 248 years, and the dwarf planets around about 300 years, it is remarkable mathematically that they're all changing signs very tightly within about an 18-month period. So that continues through this year. In fact, what's happening now, I mean, Pluto is fully in Aquarius now and will stay there till January 2044. Pluto is in Aquarius. It won't backtrack into Capricorn. However, as I just said, on the 22nd of October, Neptune retrogrades back into Pisces and stays there until the 27th of January. It then moves fully into Aquarius for the rest of its cycle. Uranus, on the 8th of November, retrogrades back into Taurus. And it stays at 29 degrees of Taurus, the anaretic degree, all of November, and then all of April until the 26th of April, when it enters Gemini fully for the rest of its cycle. Saturn has already retrograded back into Pisces. It moves fully into Aries on the 14th of February. So at that point, February for Saturn and Neptune, well, it's kind of late January for Neptune, February for Saturn, Pluto's already there in its sign. Uranus is the last one to move fully, 26th of April. All of them are in their new signs and will not retrograde back into their old signs. So 2026 has a very different quality. I think we have this crescendo pivot point at the end of the year, as I've talked about at great length and with other people. And the energy for next year, particularly as we get into kind of late spring, Northern Hemisphere, mid-year, starts to feel different. It's moving forwards quickly. They're in fast-moving signs of fire and air, not earth and water. There's a kind of freshness, of vigor, a newness, new cycles, not moving backwards anymore. No more of the old. And so not to suggest that, in one bound we're free and life is perfect, although I do absolutely feel that we have the potential to really shift our consciousness, particularly at the turn of the year. I think we can really shift our consciousness, and that means just shifting our lens, shifting our perception. That's really what this evolution, this ascension is about. It's a shifting of the lens, so we uncover our multidimensionality, our gifts. We remember those gifts and skills and the ancient wisdom that we've had in the past to step back into a fuller state of being, a more realized being, if you like, where we embody more of the light. So I do think that potentially 2026 could be an easier year, a significantly easier year. But it's up to us to make those choices. And the choice is now. The choice is right now, as you're listening to this video. It isn't in 2026. You're laying the stepping stones right now for whatever unfolds next year, for you and for the collective. So that's why I feel this is such an incredibly powerful kind of funneling down, this crescendo of energy, which so many of us can feel. I know we're very tired. I know we are all very tired. Believe me, I know we're very tired. But this is it. We are absolutely entering this pivotal point, I believe. I believe, looking at the astrology, looking at the conversations I have with other people, I just kind of feel it in my bones, and I know many of you do too, can do as well. And you're feeling these new abilities of telepathy and greater psychic sensitivity and tuning into the trees and the animals and greater healing ability. I know you are, because you write about it and you talk about it on social media. So feel excited about the new. Feel excited about the new, and really, feel the spiritual responsibility of whatever stepping stones we are setting down now in our choices and our focus. Those are the stepping stones for the people who come behind us. And that's why this is so historic as well, I feel. So I hope all of that has helped you, and feel excited. Don't feel daunted, because when we come together in numbers, we can achieve anything. Infinite possibilities out there. Much love. Don't forget to set your new intention for this new moon in Libra. Super powerful time because of what's happening out in the cosmos as well, which is so incredibly rare. God bless. Bye for now.